welcome to our next podcast. We have a nice guest in here today, Ulysses Garcia. He is a local, I guess, like, kind of famous basketball player, because according to the information that I got, he's a big deal. So thank you for being here.
Super happy to be here, awesome. And I'm excited, and but I don't know about, a good basketball player. but thank you. I'm excited to spend time with you and
great
and so forth. So.
Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started in basketball and everything like that.
Well, I would say my story is just like everybody else. I was born and raised in Hartford. My parents came from Puerto Rico, and back then, parents, they both worked, so we couldn't spend time in the house. We always ran to the parks, and about 6th grade, a guy, 𝐘𝐒𝐂𝐄, asked me to start playing basketball. I used to be a swimmer at Colt Park, and the rest is history. I just fell in love with it. I love the concept that I could be by myself, too, and get better. Where other sports, sometimes you need the collective group to get better, and plus, I'll be honest, with being Puerto Rican, I love the idea of being outside in the summer, the heat, the weather, that all appealed to me, and I just fell in love with it.
It's awesome. It's nice, like, being able to be outside, and especially now with COVID, like, we got to be outside.
Yeah, for sure.
That's awesome. Sure. That kept you busy. So, were you a good student growing up?
Well, yes and no. I was, to be honest with you, because my parents worked at home, we didn't have the accountability that parents have today for kids. I would say I was an average student that I underperformed in classroom at times, but that was my fault. But I tried to use my personality to kind of get to build relations. So the good thing that came out of it is at an early age I learned how to navigate and get along with people. I was more of a class clown. I was never a mean-spirited kid, but did not realize that to play sports, looking back, and to go, you needed both, right? In the classroom, you need to do well. And then on the sports field, whether it be football or basketball, you excel. But looking back, I wish I applied myself a little more into academics.
Well, sure, but at least you kept everyone happy, full of energy, So what are the challenges did you overcome remaining an athlete, and then also, like, bringing that onto the court? So, like, if you maybe were the class clown, how did you change your court appearance so that you were performing the right way?
Every athlete knows this. They prepare for games very differently. I'm always more of I like to be relaxed before the game. We listen to music. Today, kids use the headsets. Back then, we had big boom boxes in the locker room. So the challenges really were more just making sure I did my work. I had great, my high school is very, kind of went to a couple different high schools. Ended up at Northwest Catholic in West Hartford. But I was fortunate enough to have coaches, mentors in my life that when I needed that little prodding, that little kind of, hey, knucklehead, let's, focus, do your homework. I was there, but I was always, I needed to be relaxed before the game. That fit me well. Other people were more serious, quiet.
To get your mind in the game.
Yeah.
So how did you overcome any challenges that you had? Like, what pushed you to be able to, like, get your mindset to be able to perform?
Challenges, if you want to call them challenges, I think it was more, I didn't have the same family structure as other people at Northwest. My dad was hardly ever home, but he worked, he provided. His job was to provide, and my mother cooked. So for me, the challenges were trying to make sure I hung out with the right type of people. As I coach now, I always tell kids, you are who you hang with. Like, hang out with like-minded people that are going to make your life better. Back when I was younger, in the late 70s, early 80s, the gangs were prevalent. And so the biggest challenge was to be not drawn into that today. As you know, today, the challenges for kids are all social media kind of related things. Back then, too, parents, and I just want to connect the dots. Today, parents drive their kids to practice. They drive them everywhere. My father could care less if I went to practice. So for me to get to practice, I either took a city bus, walked, or borrowed a bike from the neighborhood. So back then, I think most athletes, if they wanted something, they had to pursue it, and they had to be self-motivated to get it done a little bit. There wasn't a lot of micromanaging of parents.
Absolutely. So it was either you did it or it didn't get done.
Didn't get done at
Right.
all, absolutely.
How has sports impacted your life?
I would say sports is woven into everything I do. It's who I am. You know, I recently had this conversation with somebody, CEO of a company, and he goes, what do you want in life now? And it's funny, when you're 22, 23, I was in Puerto Rico playing basketball in Puerto Rico, and when you're young, you think like you can set the world on fire, you know, you're all that.
Because there's no worries in the
world. You can live forever. And as you get older, I said, I miss the locker room. Mm-hmm. And what I meant by that is that what sports has taught me is that you get 10, for us, basketball is like 10 to 12 different individuals from different walks of life. Mm-hmm. A lot of similarities and a lot of differences. Yeah. And a lot of times as you got better, you know, we realized that we have to work together. If our common goal is to win a championship or just to be competitive, that we really have to embrace each other's differences. Mm-hmm. and find how we support each other. So I think working with people every day is easy for me because you've done that your whole life in sports. And as I got, I would say, more mature, I realized that really when I became more involved in the we, mm-hmm. as opposed to the I, mm-hmm. It's more fulfilling.
Sure. I think sports for me definitely kept like the camaraderie of like friends, you know, like it's the same friends that I still have to this day.
Absolutely.
You know, so I think that camaraderie is super important to take with you and know how to like build the right kind of friendships and stuff.
Yeah, and I hope you would agree to this. I tell people, if you talk, I do an exercise with coaches that I train, close your eyes and describe a coach you like or didn't like, or describe them all. Sports are the one thing that connect people emotionally to a time, mm-hmm. you know, to mm-hmm. a fixed time.
And like words and
stuff. Yeah, right. It brings you back emotionally.
Yes. I had a coach in high school that was, I would say in high school, I didn't like him. But when I look back on how much he helped me, I realized that all those things he was doing was to support me to be a better player. Not like when he'd say like, suck it up. Get down and give me 10. No, that was like because I wasn't doing what I was supposed to do.
Absolutely.
You know, so you have to take all those lessons and really, but for kids, it's hard for them to see that part of like
moment,
what you're doing, you know, so that's definitely a challenge. You kind of already said that, but like what's a like key component that someone can like think of that like help them to be able to be successful because of sports?
Well, I think in sports, and I'm speaking about basketball and I assume it's the same in every sports, you need to, if you really care about somebody, you start learning their body language. You start learning their needs sometimes before they tell you. Okay. I've learned to have a great awareness of my surrounding. The gym, right? Mm-hmm. The gym becomes an office. The office becomes a home environment. And I think to be a great leader on a team, you have to be a great listener. Mm-hmm. So I think that's one of the skills that helps me now in business. You know, you go meet clients and in sales, and you know, instead of talking about what we have, I try to uncover what are their needs, what are the things that the company's struggling with. See if we're a fit, right? Mm-hmm. See if we're a fit. Mm-hmm. I think sports are the same way. You know, yeah. You really can't have chemistry unless you really have an understanding of each other, and also when there's friction, right? Adversity, mm-hmm. how you handle that. Yeah. That takes the team to another level.
Sure.
But every team has adversity, whether it be injuries or whatever it may be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That you have. No, absolutely. So growing up, did you know that you were going to be a college Division I level sport?
I would say early on, no. I knew I was a good player based on how people were responding to me in CYO basketball on Sunday. Strangers were coming up to me and say, hey, really good game. One of the most important men in my life was 𝐘𝐒𝐂, who was my first coach, really my first true coach. Kept telling me that I had potential. But again, when you're 11, 12, 13 years old, you know, and it wasn't until I got to high school I realized that I had a gift to play basketball, and that if I applied myself, that I could do something with it. You know,
take it to that next level. Yeah. Did you have like a specific person that helped motivate you other than Ken? Like, did your teammates, like how to get to that level? Because you can have that level of experience, but then what pushed you to get there?
Ken was the beginning, but if you look back in your life, and I'm sure you feel the same way, regardless of his sports, you meet different people in your life, and each one of them have a piece it's like a puzzle, and they had a little sentence to say. I've been fortunate enough to had great coaches, whether I appreciated them or not at that time. At Northwest, we had a phenomenal team. Norman Bailey, Marcus Brown. We were very talented. So because of that, we had a lot of talent. We pushed each other in practice. But for me, back in the day when I played, again, unfortunately, the parks today are empty. Right? They're for rightfully so for some of the reasons.
Yeah.
No need to get into them. But
Right.
when I grew up, the parks were full. So I personally, at an early age, wanted to be the best person I could be. So I would bike to Keeney Park, bike to Millwoods, bike to South End, Goody Park. I always, and this was not just me, all the best players in the Hartford area always ended up on the same courts on Thursday, Wednesday, because you wanted to play against the best. Back then, everybody had a healthy concept of competition. It was healthy because if I got embarrassed that my mother or father weren't there to pat me in the back, I had to figure it out on my own.
Sure.
I had to watch and learn, but it was funny. The older players always kind of kept an eye on the younger players. It was a good time to be a young kid back in the day, if you want to put it. But for me, I was self-motivated. I wanted to be really good at it.
Yeah, so being able to go to those courts and being able to play, it definitely, you're self-motivated, but you're motivated also to be the best on the court.
Yes,
like
wherever the court was.
Yeah, and you travel to all different ones. So as a person of Puerto Rican descent, you've had an interesting journey. You've become one of the greatest players. Now, mind you, this is all quoting. I'm all quoting, and so whether you want to take it or not, this is exciting. Yeah. You've been one of the greatest basketball players to come out of Hartford. What is it like being a basketball star?
Well, first of all, thank you, and I'm humbled by that. I'm not going to say I knew I wasn't good. I knew I was very good, but I never saw myself as a star. I think I always wanted to be one of the, I always wanted to fit in with the group. Because when you grow up with a family structure like I did, family had a different meaning for me. My friends were my family.
Right.
The streets were my family.
Right.
I think one of the things that kept me going is, I would tell most athletes is, I think, to remain hungry, you got to remain humble. Because the minute I was never satisfied. And I don't mean that in a negative way. Like I tell kids all the time, be your number one critic, but also be your number one fan.
Right.
I wish I knew that more looking back, but I was never satisfied with the player who I was at that moment. So always striving to do better, whether it be working my dribbling or passing or shooting or defense, whatever it was. I needed to. You can embarrass me once, but you're not going to do it twice.
Right.
Kind of mentality.
That's important to have that.
Yeah.
So you're saying to humble yourself. So what would you recommend for a student athlete who is dealing with superstardom?
I would say, to be blunt, don't surround yourself with yes people. The problem with yes people is they don't hold you accountable. Yeah. And when sometimes you see it all the time, I would say more on the boys' side, where a young man is a great athlete, people latch on to him.
Yeah.
And to me, they're takers, So I would say, acknowledge you're really good. I tell a lot of my girls that when they get scholarship offers or they do really well, I'll call them up, hey, Sophie, what's up? Hey, you did really good, girl. What you should do, go in your room and just dance. What do you mean, coach? Just celebrate. But you got to do it all over again the next day. That kind of like that. Yeah. Enjoy the moment.
Yeah.
But, because the true greatness is that you could do it every day.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Where, repeat it. Just like when you go to work every day, 5 days a week. Can you repeat the same performance?
Right.
So the minute you start, I train a lot of kids at Ethel Walker every month, every Sunday almost. And one thing that I tell kids, and I tell college coaches, what's the number one thing holding kids back today is their lack of self-awareness.
Yes.
Because if they think they're great, they don't need you or me or any other coach. But if they remain humble and hungry, they're better listeners.
Yeah.
They're willing to apply the things they learn. I think they're quick to try to understand what you're trying to do for them.
Sure.
So I would say, and I had coaches that, if I thought my head was getting too big, that, 𝐘𝐒𝐂𝐄, so they would like, they would straighten me out real quick.
And that sometimes you need it.
Absolutely.
So did your high school experience properly prepare you for college, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I was fortunate. It was a small school. Charlie Larson was the coach then, Doug Melody, Jim Aiken. We had great coaching staff. It was a very family atmosphere. I lived with Mary Lou and David Royce were kind of like my foster family.
Okay.
And it was the first time I had nice structure, dinners at home, and the first time someone made me do my homework,
right.
And those,
you're not going anywhere till
yeah,
it's
so
done.
that accountability, but you like that, do this. Yeah, I did, but I was still being the knucklehead. I was a late bloomer physically, and so I had to go 1 year to prep school at St. Thomas More, where I really matured the most, because Jerry Quinn was a coach there, and he's still there, Hall of Fame coach actually.
Wow.
And we had to get up in the morning, 5 a.m., 5:30 to work in the kitchen, and that's when I really started realizing, what hard work was. If you want something, are you willing to sacrifice? Yeah. So I would say high school, I did a great job. Looking back, did I embrace it all? No, but I embraced enough of it to say it impacted me in a good way.
That's good. That's a good way to look at it. So you already talked about your support system, which is really nice that you were able to get into another family environment. So what are some student athletes questions should be asked to coaches when they're being recruited by a university? So what do you think they should ask?
Wow, I'm in the midst of that right now. I've had Mary Basketball Providence Rookie of the Year. We've put almost 100% of our kids the last 7 years into college, Division 3, 2, or 1.
Wow.
We get heavily involved with the students. Number one, when the kids are young, when we talk to them at 6th, 7th, 8th grade, the parents are always involved in conversations about practice. And as they hit 9th, 10th grade, parents are still involved. But I also make sure we talk to the kids on the phone. I'll call, your daughter and ask her, hey, Brianna, what's going on? Because part of them, I want them to learn how to have the phone skill, right, to practice for me, and so forth. A lot of girls we have a kid right now that's being recruited by quite a few schools out of Enfield, and she, I tell her, get on the website. When you're interviewing the school, even though you're looking for a scholarship, it's a business. It really is a business.
Sure.
And if they're recruiting my player, they're probably recruiting 10 other players, right? And so, but we don't focus just on basketball. Academics. What do you want to do in your life? Most kids don't really know what they want to do for a major. Some do. So ask them about their academics. How do they support the student athlete during the season? Do they have study halls? Things that are built in to make you successful. So we always want our players to call the coach or talk to the coach and start with, hey, coach, I hear you're having a great season. I saw you won yesterday. Show the coach that you've done your research, that you are engaged, that you're leading the conversation.
Yeah, and that they're not. You are going to play for them, but you want to make sure that it's right for you.
Yeah. So we also have our kids become very, we use transparency, the word transparency, and vulnerable. So, hey, coach, tell me what you like about me. Ask for feedback. What do you like that I do on the court?
Right.
What can I work on, coach? A lot of kids, that's a tough one to ask of a college coach because they feel, I'm exposing myself. No, you're not exposing. You're showing vulnerability. You're showing that you want to get better. That sets you apart from other kids.
Yeah.
And then what we tell a lot of our kids when they visit a college campus, after they're done, instead of sending an email, write a handwritten note, which is something very different today. Not all the kids listen, but all you could do is do that. But ask about class sizes. We have a very family type atmosphere. It's important to us. So I tell our kids, if you like what we have, you got to go ask the questions that show you that, and let them know that family is important to you. And coach, okay, and how do you do that during the season? What's your culture like? Yeah,
it's important to know all of those things.
And I think girls are better than guys with trusting their gut.
Absolutely. I would say so.
But you know what I'm saying? It's just something about,
Absolutely. Some student athletes tend to be unrealistic about their skill level, like you just said. They might think that they're in a Division I ball player, but in reality they might be a Division III player. As a coach, is there any way to explain the reality to a student athlete, their skill level, without crushing their dreams?
First of all, that's the best question of the day. It's probably the hardest, and it's changing. I'm not sure I'm going to answer it all in one sentence, but I'm going to try to do the best I can. That's the hardest part because when I was younger and you were younger, my parents weren't there to micromanage. Now today, when you have, and every parent should feel this about their kid, that their kid is the best thing in the world.
Yeah.
I get that.
Right.
But the reality is, I tell the kids and the families, and we sit down and ask them what they're looking for. We're constantly having conversations. And then, do you know what it looks like to be a Division I player or Division III? Division III, the experience is, you get to come home during Thanksgiving. It's a more rounded education.
Right.
Division I, they own you. You can kiss your daughter goodbye for 4 years. And Division II is a sweet spot. We have a lot of kids at the NE10 doing well. We don't push Division I because eventually my job is to help them with skill development, help them understand the big picture, because at the other side, during the tournaments that we go to, the college coaches determine what they're looking for. So we're always having honest feedback, and really at the end of the day, my job is to really assess what I'm hearing. Is it really the player's voice or the parent's voice? And I try to get parents to understand that college coaches, really want the kid, not the parent, but they also know when the time's right, it's the family deal. So we tell our parents to behave on the sidelines. College coaches are looking at it. But our skills level of, our skill set is really high in terms of our drills. So the girls early on learn where they're at. But we also tell them to shoot high. Let's shoot high, because if you shoot here and you fall from here. But if you shoot high and you fall, you're ahead of where you were at level.
Before
so we talk about living outside our comfort zone every day. And when that becomes normal, we raise the bar and find a new uncomfortable zone. So when you look back, you're like, how did I get here? So
it came with hard work.
Yeah, and a lot of times I tell them, you want to be a Division I player, these are the things we're going to do together. And you'll see right away if the kid's willing to put that time in. And the game is changing. The girls' game is getting so much better that I would say Division II, III, or 1, there has to be sacrifice. If you're not making sacrifices, and I mean not maybe going to a dance, whatever the sacrifice may be, if you're not making a sacrifice, A, you don't want it bad enough, or B, it's not aligned with your goals.
That's huge.
Yeah.
That's where it all comes in. So after a successful career playing basketball at the University of Hartford, you have excelled in business. What made you get into a girls' basketball coaching program, and what do you like most about coaching?
I coached boys early on in Hartford, and then when I had my own family, it was my daughter that got me into girls' basketball, the kids at home. And then we took over the whole town, and I ran the whole town program, but it was built on leadership. To me, basketball is just a platform, because when I look back at my experiences, I realized I was a knucklehead. I could have been more serious. And I thank God for all the blessings of all the coaches that believed in me, all the people, teachers. So it was my way of giving back. Coaching girls is very different. When I coach boys, they were like, "Oh, you played basketball where? Oh, you must be a good coach because you played basketball in Puerto Rico, University of Hartford, whatever." And I had to demonstrate. With girls, it really blew me away because it was more about, do you care about me? Do you believe in me? So it changed the way I coach, So we run a system with no plays because I want the girls to be empowered, to be risk takers. And so our system, the Read and React, has forced me to, instead of telling them what to do, I ask questions. What do you see out there? What do you I'll call timeouts in a game, and I go, girls, tell me what's out there, and they'll tell me. I'll wink at them and say, all right, let's go do that. Trust. Trust is big for girls. I had a college coach say to me about 5 years ago, and we were in Chicago, and they go, your kids play so hard. How do you get them to play hard? And I didn't know. I just said, because I love them. And they go, really? I said, yeah, I love them. They love me. And it's a relationship.
I think that's important. And just being a parent of an athlete, I think that's something that maybe possibly some of my daughter's coaches are lacking. So that's like a good way to put it into perspective. I never thought of that relationship that you build on the court or on the field as a female player versus a male player. Like, it's a little bit different, the mentality that you're bringing to the field, and yes, girls need to be loved. Girls need to know that they care about. Girls, when they feel that way, they will perform.
Yeah.
So it's that heart that, you know, that sometimes could be missing in other people's.
Yeah, and it's not to say that boys don't want relationships.
No, of course
it's just
not.
how we get to that
yes,
level.
Of course.
You know, and I think a lot of coaches, and no disrespect to coaches, because I was one of them,
Mm-hmm.
I realized that I had to give the trust first.
Yeah, it's
you know,
important.
because I was the adult, right? So
Sure.
instead of like, you know, you got to trust me, I said, no, it's not fair. You know what I'm saying? So in other words, for kids to take a risk, they need to know I'm taking a risk.
And that they feel comfortable
Yeah.
taking that risk. It's that trust.
But I need to model it.
Right. Hey, that's the most important part. So, as the coach and founder of the CT Attack basketball program, what is the goal of your student athletes? Like, what do you look for when a kid joins?
Well, first of all, we take all kids. We
Mhm.
don't cut kids if we don't have to,
Right.
because we believe in building every kid. We have some kids that have never gone to college early on, maybe, but they love basketball because their experience
Mm-hmm.
with us is good, and they become a coach or something like that.
That's
So
awesome.
there's, you know, people get into a sport, but how they leave has many tentacles.
Mhm.
What I don't want them doing is quitting because of us. So for me, it's be your best version of yourself. You know, whatever that version is, right?
Mhm.
I have a thing I tell kids all the time. You know, hey Susan, how you feeling today? Coach, I'm not really feeling good. You know, and girls are funny. They're like, my boyfriend or school or whatever it is, right? My mom, my dad. I'm like, all right, can you give me 100% of what you have? You know, in other words, let them know that always give 100% of what you have.
Mhm.
And then we want them all to be risk takers. So one thing we do early on is we have the girls write what would they write to a college coach about themselves. And it's always, you know, start off with the good, here's what I'm good at or whatever, and here's my weaknesses. And then what we do is share each other's weaknesses, and a lot of kids get so focused on their game, and a good way that we discovered is that if all I worry about is my shot, then I become self-motivated, selfish.
Mhm.
But if I worry about everybody else's weaknesses, guess what? Your issues aren't that big. So collectively, we learn each other's weaknesses and we support them.
Got it.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So as you learn each other's, that we become a stronger team because of that. And that's an exercise we do, and it's uncomfortable because the girls have to read it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no,
You
absolutely.
know, but I don't let them off the hook. They
Okay.
got to read it.
Good.
You know, I could read it, but no, they got to read it. And then we acknowledge all the
Taking
good things.
ownership.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we also take ownership of
Mhm.
that person. You know.
Mhm.
You know what I'm
Absolutely.
saying?
No, I definitely do. So how does your program support the student athlete outside the basketball court?
Okay, so right now they're not with us, right? Because they're in high school.
Right.
So all our coaches stay in contact with the kids. I recently sent a video on Kobe Bryant on a winning attitude to my families and parents. So I stay in touch with them throughout the year because I think if we ever did during AU, that's to me that's fake. That means
Right.
you only matter to me.
During those 5
Those
weeks, or whatever weeks.
3
you're
months,
together.
whatever, right?
Right.
It's, no. You matter to me 12 months a year, 365 days a year.
Yeah.
I make a point of calling every kid every month,
Mhm.
checking how they're doing in school, how's it going, and parents say, you're not doing your homework, you know, because they need to learn, I think, they wear the name the Connecticut Attack, that they represent us 12 months a year, just like they represent the name of their family 12 months a year.
Yeah.
So, and the kids like that, you know, or I'll read the paper, and I'll say, hey, I heard you did really good, and they're like, he cares, you know.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you got 10, 12 kids. Any of our kids get injuries. Unfortunately, we had some kids with ACLs. We find out the surgery. We've been fortunate to partner with UConn, Dr. 𝐘𝐒𝐿𝐢, who does all the ACLs, all that.
Okay.
So every kid is taken care of like a college athlete.
Mhm.
They have accident when they have the surgery. We send them a nice little frozen basket at home. So we you know, there's different
Take
ways of
care
staying
of
in
them.
touch.
Yeah.
But all our coaches do it in their own way, but they do it in their way, and the kids like it. The
That's
kids do
good.
like it, yeah.
Yeah, that's important to
Yeah.
feel that you're, you know, that you're not just the 3-month athlete.
And you're just not a basketball player.
Right. You're more than that.
Yeah.
So with AA sports and other community sports programs becoming so powerful, what can you do with them excelling beyond the classroom and excelling beyond the basketball court? What can you do so they're an overall good person?
I think the reality is, you brought it up before, a great question, is everybody, you know, thinks their kid's Michael Jordan or Maya Moore or whatever.
Yeah.
Always dream big, right? And especially in times of COVID, you should dream even bigger.
Right.
You know, but I would say for the young ladies out there that are listening, I don't know the numbers, but I bet you it can't be higher than 1% go on to play WNBA. So we really pushed our kids, what do you want to become? Use basketball if you're good enough, and academically, use that to get an education.
Sure.
But you need to be committed. There's a perception that Division III has to be committed. The student athlete at Division III is sometimes even more committed because some of the schools at Division III are the Trinities, the Tufts academically. They're phenomenal schools. So at an early age, you got to understand if you want something, dream big, develop goals, and make sure your goals are small enough so you're successful. Sometimes you make the goals too big and you quit because you stretch yourself. But it's about taking baby steps. We talk about trust the process. And I tell the kids, hey, when you're in my gym today, all you got to do is get 1% better. And you see kids like, just 1%?
That's all?
That's all? Yeah, 1%. Everybody can do 1%, but if you do it every day, you're 365% better than you were a year ago.
That's awesome.
As a person. So again, 1% is easy. Easier than.
It's attainable.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And they can see it. You see their face when they go, that's all I gotta do.
That's it.
And guess what? You showed up.
You're already there. Yeah. So now, if people wanted to join any of your clinics or any AAU to become a Connecticut Attack player, how would they do that?
I gave you my business card. My name is Ulysses Garcia. My cell phone is probably the easiest. It's 860-930-8973, or email me at u.garcia@ctattack.com.
We'll put it on the bottom. This will all be on the bottom. Yeah.
This has been tremendous.
Oh, awesome.
You're a joy.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you so much for coming. Yeah. Please keep out for Connecticut Attack. You guys can find more information at the link below. I'll put it right here for you. So thank you.
You're awesome. Thank you. Pleasure to be here.